Thought I'd give you folks a tour of the new Meteor House edition of the Song of Kwasin, which came out in December 2015. This is the first standalone edition of the book. The novel was first published in the collection Gods of Opar from Subterranean Press in 2012. This is obviously the novel which I co-authored with Philip A. Farmer. It is the third volume in the Khokarsa series, following Hadon of Ancient Opar and Flight to Opar. So this is the paperback edition. There's also a hardcover edition available from the Meteor House website. The hardcover is a limited edition, whereas this paperback is a trade edition that should be around for quite a while. So, to begin, it has a beautiful, epic cover art by artist Bob Eggleton. This is the same cover art that was on Gods of Opar. It illustrates a scene from the novel, The Song of Kwasin. That's Kwasin right there, in fact. So that's fantastic. We wanted to use this again because the art is just so wonderful. Bob Eggleton also did this interior frontispiece of Kwasin. That's Kwasin with the Axe of Victory, which he inherited from Paga in Hadon of Ancient Opar, the first volume in the series. This is pretty much exactly how I picture Kwasin looking, so that's fantastic. So this one's edition is signed. If you order it from Meteor House, they still have some signed copies of the paperback. If you order it from Amazon, it will not be signed. I've got a list here of the series, the Khokarsa series. Here's the table of contents. We put a lot of extras in this edition. A lot of stuff that wasn't in the limited edition of Gods of Opar. Put a lot of work into it. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I'll go over that material individually here. Got the dedications dedicated to Edgar Burroughs and H. Rider Haggard. I have a great new introduction to the novel by Paul DeFilippo. He's one of my favorite authors, actually. So that was a high honor to get that. And then I wrote a new preface to the Meteor House edition, talking about the background of the series, background of the novel in particular, and it's had a very peculiar publication history. It almost wasn't written. Phil Farmer had started writing it back in the mid-1970s, and then stopped to pursue other publishing projects that he was working on. And he always intended to get back to the book, but he never did. And after he retired, that's when he granted me permission to complete his unfinished manuscript based on his outline. So there's a lot of good information in there that I go over. Also got a story so far synopsis of Hadon of Ancient Opar and Flight to Opar to get you caught up on the series if you haven't read it for a while, or if you just haven't read it and want to just read this one. Got some fantastic maps by Charles Berlin, who's also done some other Farmer illustration in the past. Just a sample there. These were newly commissioned for Gods of Opar, actually. And this map has never appeared. This map is actually specific to this novel. The other ones appeared in the other previous novels in the series. We got chapter 1 here. Phil was known for having great opening lines to his novels, and these are in his words. He wrote this part of the manuscript. The opening line is, "The strongest man in the world came puffing over the top of the hill and met a god." So, classic farmer. And it's quite a long novel. Goes on for 329 pages. And then we've got a 20,000 word bonus novella, Kwasin and the Bear God. This was a story that I wrote based on a fragmentary, unused outline for the Song of Kwasin that I found shortly before Phil passed. And was actually able to take some words from his notes too and use that in one scene for the dialogue of a priestess in the story. So that is a missing adventure of a lost adventure of Kwasin that takes place in between chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the Song of Kwasin. So that's quite a long, it's a novella, full novella. And then we get to the addenda. So addendum 1, we've got the world of Khokarsa. Begins with the Khokarsan calendar. It's a short little piece taken from Philip A. Farmer's notes on how the Khokarsan calendar was set up and the gods and goddesses that made up the names of the months. There's an article on the plants of Khokarsa. Phil did a ton of world building for this series, even though he only, wrote those 2 books and then had this 3rd one planned and begun. He did kind of a Tolkien-esque amount of world building. So appropriately, I have a guide to Khokarsa. This is an updated version of the guide that was originally published in the Titan Books edition of Hadon of Ancient Opar. This is expanded. It was expanded again in Flight to Opar to encompass both of the first 2 novels. This version encompasses all 3 of the first 3 novels. So we've got cast of characters, people and tribes, religion and folklore, and geography and localities. And then we come to addendum 2. That's Philip A. Farmer's notes and correspondence. I got notes on the Khokarsa series. We actually got these great scans directly from Phil's notes. It might not be legible on the screen here, but they are legible on the print editions. So, giving you some background on how he created the series. There's actually that creation myth that I used this as part of dialogue in the Kwasin and the Bear God. There's the Khokarsan syllabary. I was very happy when I found that among Phil's files because it allowed me to sync up the names that I had to create for the novel, or transcribe from the Khokarsan tablets, if you will. It has the glyphs and the syllables from the Khokarsan language, so I was able to make a lot of the names very authentically Khokarsan, linguistically speaking. Then we get to Philip A. Farmer's original outline. So if you want to see what Phil originally plotted for the book and compare it to the novel, now's your chance. It's right here, right from Phil's typewriter. We've got the scans reprinted. It follows very closely, actually, what the final novel turned out to be, with a few modifications. Phil wanted me to change certain things about the end of the novel, and there were a few details I had to fill in here and there. There's the great ziggurat, the Great Tower of Ko and Rezu, which Bob Eagleton has also interpreted here on the cover. I think that's a really great version. He really knocked it out of the park with this illustration. Got some more notes here, and then we've got Philip is a Farmer's alternate outline. This was an outline that I said I discovered shortly before Phil passed, and it contained a little bit of material that was not in the outline that I used to write the novel. So there's kind of a little lost adventure, like I said, that took place between chapter 1 and 2, and that's what this is. There were certain other details that did not sync up with the other outline, and other details that were already established in the series. So it was otherwise unusable, but it was usable for the purposes of that lost adventure, which fit very nicely. And we've got correspondence on the Khokarsa series. A couple of Egg Rice Burroughs fans and scholars, Frank Breckel and John Harwood, wrote basically a long monograph called Heritage of the Flaming God. And that's the monograph that, long essay that inspired Phil Farmer to create Khokarsa in the Khokarsa Ancient Opar series. So I included some correspondence in here, a nice little letter here where Phil is writing. They shared a lot of information back and forth when he was creating the series, and he's kind of responding to their correspondence and pointing out what he's doing with the series. And he signs it Meteor, Phil, which is the Egg Rice Burroughs fans know is a Barsoomian phrase. So then I've got the acknowledgments here. That's pretty much it. There's a ad, I think, in the back here for more Meteor House titles. And you got the back cover here with some nice blurbs. So there you have it, The Song of Kwasin, the long-awaited third novel of the Khokarsa series. So thanks for letting me share that.